Today is day 4, November 2023, chair empty. I will present quite simple, quite clear a situation here, which is, let's suppose that the audit is an independent activity and must present things in general, trying to do not sugarcoat elements that must be exposed or complained by the governance risk and compliance, which is kind of the complementary activity at this workflow that goes in general observing the pattern as conformance we have in our company or in our activity. And the audit decided to do an overview or observe the Western electoral process since 2018. And we are supposing that the audit is doing this with autonomy, totally independent. We will have on mind some situations quite clear. The first one is that the democratic process, it's not the democratic system. The democratic system is the democracy, which the power belongs to the people that has as democratic process the choice of representatives. If they do not represent the voice of the people, that in general is based on the constitution, they have no legitimacy as a representative by the way they carry this argument, and in general will be observed self-dealing, lobby scams, and other things since the creation of law until the treasonous acts at the judicial system that in both cases only goes by the chairs on it. The judicial system is much more serious because implied a treasonous against the state power, which is a treason against the state. We had this model yesterday. We could observe that failure at the Security Forum will be observed since the domestic Security Forum as activity. Considering this international architecture of security, I would say, one of the peers must complain or both the internal failure to do not be associated with transfer into the global system of defense and security. The trace is quite clear. It's the corruption unveiled as criminal purpose, convicted at the antitrust justice as the corruption, the common argument to achieve illicit economic power, and at the International Criminal Court when you do this using your state power. Today we will observe that considering the misuse of institution and state power are acts without legitimacy or excuses, but that are currently happening, we offer general model to recognize how misuses, one, got the power, in general by electoral fraud, at the electoral process or at the electoral system, which is the democracy having the democratic institutions misused for criminal purpose. In general, they will be caught unbodied. Unveiling the nepotism, which is the explicit trace as corruption, and all covered by fake record. Fake record is one element essential. The other thing we will have is how this feeds the parallel system, which is a criminal architecture of misuse of power to cover power previously misused. We will have overpriced contracts and fraud scams at pricing or hiring process in general to transfer money in a parallel system of things. It can be even as a compensation of an athlete, for instance, or judicial decision transferring money. And if it's parallel, probably will fit parallel goals, like terror or whatever. We will observe also that this leads to Ponzi scams. And one more time, the fake record. The fake record is the concurrent element. This way, as we can observe, we will have something here which is the idea and the things we are doing. We will move quite simple and quite fast, because people is crazy in Rio de Janeiro. I think that they are having the final of a championship, and it's kind of the Brazilian team, I think, that has a better team as players, but the other is much more traditional. And I think that everything can happen. For instance, Brazil and PS have a better team, but they, got down by the tradition of things that must be properly made. But the game will be decided at the context of the game, considering the match adjustment, which is an object of the Interpol. We could observe the treasonal goals at the relation debit and credit, transferring the risk inside this relation, which in general is a cash flow, having the risk unveiled as corruption with criminal purpose by the users of debit and credit, and who do the registry and signature of this as account department and the bank system. We will observe now that in the past we had the observation, it's very primary observation, considering the electoral system, and was kicked like this. I have my electoral system. Considering the USA, I have the candidate A, the candidate B as possibility, and in the middle I will have the candidate empty as no vote. The decision of the election will be made since one of the candidates having the electoral, and then we'll have the result. A is major than B, or B is major than A. It's the first idea as control line. And then we will observe that the candidates A having the ideas debit and credit plus B equal the total of election. A is major than B. In the same way, we will have that the candidate B if I do the addition between the two both, I will have this must be equal 100% of electors, right? This is the general idea as model, very similar to the relation debit and credit. But I will observe that in general, the electoral fraud starts with an argument as the pool, the polls, as kind of the estimative you do. The estimatives you do will set kind of an image of two possibilities as candidate, which are the variables, the variables that you have as A and B. And in the end, we will have the electoral result. And then, in the very first moment, we will have the context to get the estimative as Z A and Z B. In general, this is made by the press and others. It means that the press and others got in touch with the interests of two groups that are trying to achieve the power. Generally, if it goes by any way, it's unveiled the intent as parallel use of power. And then we back to our model. Let's suppose that the audit is in that, because it must be. and then we will have our model as the electoral, the audit of the electoral system on Western society, because it has democracy here. In the East, I don't know if it has. We'll finish here and wish you a great weekend.